Lots of music chatter in the green room today. I love it. I'm here for it. I feel like maybe we should have some Neil Young in the background for this segment, or perhaps BTO, The Guess Who, Rush, Bare Naked Ladies, Drake, Joni Mitchell. Maybe Anne Murray is more Rob Bolton's speed. I don't know. It's the RBC Canadian Open. It is the soundtrack of golfers' lives in Canada, dating back to 1904. Big fella, what's happening?
And you're Casey Swantek. That was so much fun. That green room conversation with Sinclair, Chris Sinclair, the wizard behind the curtain. Yeah, I learned so much when the two of you talk. So today was a day of listening for me, and now you've just set my playlist for the remainder of this Wednesday. Good to see you, pal.
What a sweet song, orchestrated by Nick Taylor last year, huh? He was one of four in the top 15 among the Canadian players in the power rankings. I had to get all the way to number 10 before I found the defending champion, who's the highest ranked Canadian at 30th in the world and checks in at plus 6,600 this week. I'm thinking maybe because he's defending on a different course, Rob, is why Nick is not a little higher in the PR this week.
No, the fact that he's in the power rankings is strong endorsement anyway. I mean, again, field of 156, open, record number of fellow Canadians in the field. So, yeah, it's more than just about the official world golf ranking. The fact that he's a defending champion could be the same course. You know, this happens a lot. It's not surprising that the defending champion is not number one. I mean, Nick Taylor in the long haul has really, I mean, he's in his prime and he's playing like it. There's a lot to love in the long term. There are no reasons to believe that he's not going to have a great week. But he's not that guy in the inside left lane that we consider most of the time to contend for the title. So at number 10 out of 156, he's fine in terms of the feels in that role at Hamilton Golf and Country Club this week. But this is quite different. I'm not discounting that in terms of maybe a potential letdown because he'll have to hand that trophy back, you know, metaphorically speaking. And that's a tough one to do this week after last year's incredible historical experience. But he's the right guy for that. You know, there are certain guys that wouldn't fit that role or want to wear that hat necessarily 100% of the time, but he leaned into it, and I don't know if there's a better guy for it either. So, yeah, confidence is high. Defending the title would be absolutely insane. I don't even know if it couldn't be better than last year's, but it'd be a close like 1A to last year's incredible experience.
Of course, the guy that Taylor vanquished with that 70-footer for eagle and sudden death was Tommy Fleetwood. It must have felt like Tommy against the entire world with all the energy at Oakdale in Ontario last year. So now Fleetwood is on a short list, right, of best players in the game without winning. That becomes a burden week after week, and I'm sure he's a little fatigued from hearing all the questions, but he's at plus 1,600 here this week, Rob. So I think the betting markets are in agreement that this could be the breakthrough, perhaps.
I've had this conversation before, haven't we, with this guy?
Yeah.
I'm not part of the American contingent that refers to him as a non-winner. There's a qualifier to that, non-winner on the PGA Tour. If you don't like it, all he has to do is win. Well, if it was that easy, then he would have won already. He's certainly been so close. My third favorite reaction after Nick Taylor threw the putter, hugged his caddy, and Adam Hadwin went to the ground was Tommy Fleetwood's smile. Because in the face of defeat, he's coming so close, never won on the PGA Tour. Here he is with a chance. There was a victim. He was the victim, and all he could do was say, yeah, he was front row seat for history for an entire country. That's pretty special, and he seems to be of the ilk to handle that. So it was a pretty cool matchup of those two guys. The right guy won in terms of the storyline and the narrative. The proverb is that, unfortunately, somebody had to lose because it's golf. There's only one winner in this tournament. But Fleetwood, he's been playing well again. I mean, it didn't slow him down. He was already sort of re-energized at that point last year, and he just kept the pedal down. The problem with him, as we've seen with so many other guys of his caliber, Swanee, is that they tend to play in all of the deepest fields, and it's just more difficult to win in those fields. Yeah. I don't care what the field size is. I mean, sometimes I do, but the strength of the field matters also. and sometimes more than the size of the field. So this week, a non-major on the PGA Tour. It is Canada's national championship, of course. Fleetwood is not carrying that sort of pride. It's an opportunity to keep it simple and go out there and finally get that victory on the PGA Tour.
The last player to win at Hamilton Golf and Country Club was Rory McIlroy a few years ago. He is the betting favorite, as you would surmise, at 4-1. The guy with whom he played and teamed up with to win the Zurich Classic of New Orleans is Shane Lowry, who's been playing quite nicely. In fact, had a strong showing at the PGA as well. He's third in the power rankings this week, and at plus 2,200 is one of the short odds on the board here this week.
Thought he'd be shorter, to be honest with you. I mean, he's playing well enough to have earned a shorter reach. So I don't know if there's been an Irish guy or a guy come through, like a Darren Clark back in the day, you know, I was a massive fan of his before he won the Open. And then he wins the Open, and like now people are going to get an understanding of why this guy's so likable. And it seems like one after another, these guys from Ireland. Now I'm half Irish, as my complexion will prove. So maybe there's something but everybody's half Irish at some point, right? I think that's kind of the what we all deal with and live with and enjoy. But man, I just got to figure it out inside the head, you know, and it's really enjoyable. And then when, of course, Lowry's playing well, you know, it's not like he doesn't have this fire about him. We've seen that time and again, but he's just so humble, and he's in his prime, and yeah, man, because he played so well 5 years ago at Hamilton, finished runner-up, albeit basically the B flight, you know, co-winner. He is back, and he is and he's committed this week, and I love it. And he's on track to get to the Tour Championship, and he's not letting up. So all of the reasons to inject him into all fantasy, and at 2,200 as we opened, yeah, full unit on that, absolutely.
I was glad to see Alex Noren as high as number 4 in the power rankings. I think he's had a really strong season. 17 straight cuts made for the Swede, 8 straight top 25 finishes. And look, though he hasn't won on the PGA Tour, much like the Fleetwood discussion we were just having, this guy's a proven winner. He's won 10-plus times around the globe and on the DP World Tour through the year. Noren is playing at a very high level right now, highly experienced guy at the age of 41, and some value at about 25-1 this week.
Yeah, and that's much shorter also. Now, again, different conversation than Fleetwood. As you mentioned, Noren is 41, but it doesn't matter. Age it's just a fact at this point with this guy, and he's not slowing down. If anything, he's enjoying a second prime, if there is such a thing. He's got it all figured out. Doesn't have to play in all the toughest events, and he's not in terms of field size, and he just continues to throw up the top 25s and top 10s, and he's doing everything we expect of him. And it's just so rare to see a guy who hasn't won on the PGA Tour come so close so many times in a row. But that's where that the success abroad it plays into the form now, and why he's deserved our attention and our faith and our love for everything he's been able to do for us of late. It's not easy, and we can't take it for granted. He'd be we don't know enough about him because he hasn't won, and even fans of the game don't know enough about him. So it would be great for him, not that he needs us to know a lot about him, because he's not out there really pushing himself, self-aggrandizing or anything like that. So he checks all of the boxes, and then, of course, that doesn't reach 7,100 yards. That's also a benefit. I think that's maybe where age factors in a little bit more, because he's not a bomber, and you don't have to bomb it this week. All of the other things play up on this course, especially because he really is in form, and the course suits him so well.
So I think you were touting Mac Meissner for a top 40 prop last week at the Charles Schwab Challenge. I would say he over-delivered, finishing with a share of 5th place. And look, that's 3 straight top 15s, or 3 of the last 5, I should say, for the rookie who slips into the power rankings this week at number 14. And hey, man, at 100-1, that might be worth a little of your consideration for a unit.
This is a time of year where PGA Tour rookies, tend to disappear. And it's not because they don't get playing time. It's because the courses get more difficult and the fields get deeper as we get into the season of the majors. So it's always impressive. We don't know who it's going to be. Every year there's 2 or 3, 4 rookies that emerge. It's just impressive because they come in with some pedigree, and then they have all this learning. And so much of the learning is outside the ropes, and the travel and everything's new, and sometimes it can be a big for guys that we know entering the tour. And Meissner had a little bit of pedigree, maybe not necessarily as much as like the Cootie brothers, that type of thing, fellow rookies of his. But he's having arguably the better season of the three of them, and many, many others who are rookies that are 29 currently in the PGA Tour. This is another opportunity for Meissner to just dig in. That's rare. I've been liking him for a while. That's why the top 40 prop, and he paid that off. So now it's time to elevate him into the power rankings and see what he does with that. But the fit makes sense too, Swanee. I mean, this is the type of thing where, an outright, I don't know what the odds are at the moment, but it's really attractive. And there aren't many rookies that would generate that at this time of year. So there's an elevated level of my interest in this guy right now.
Looking to be the second straight winner named Davis on the PGA Tour after Davis Riley last week. Davis Thompson is in the field. He's got Rob Bolton's attention. We have not had a first-time winner at the RBC Canadian Open in about 15 years. What do you like about Davis Thompson at plus 5,500 as your outright sleeper this week?
Gotta love the Davis segue. Nicely done. Always deliver. Davis Thompson is a similar situation, albeit a PGA Tour sophomore. More pedigree than Meissner and many others, but he's starting to figure it out. Climbs into the top 100 of official world golf ranking. Easy for me to say. The momentum that these guys are generating right now, and at a time when we have signature events, 2 remaining. They're trying to climb into those. They're not in them yet. He's figuring it out. I typically give these guys of a certain pedigree like Thompson 3 years. And if they happen to win within the first 2, sometimes I'm not necessarily a fan of that, even though they might feel like it makes sense. He's entering a year and a half in, but he seems to be knowing enough about him and following his career, seems to be ready for it. And this is a spot this week, and he's only 55-1 to win. Really respectful. A little bit though, like last week, I was hesitant to put a non-winner in the this slot for sleepers, Swanee, just because it's been so long since one broke through in this tournament. But it does seem like it'll happen more often, and it just hasn't. There's never a prop for best non-winner. This doesn't exist. So you have to reach out into the regular outright to go find him. He's the type of guy where you're looking at it in advance, and then you'll realize, oh, of course he won, rather than, oh, that's a surprise. It wouldn't be a surprise at all.
So there are 20 players on the PGA Tour this season who have posted at least 4 top 10 finishes. One of them is Kevin Yu, which may surprise people because you've got to dig pretty deep in the FedEx Cup standings before you find him at number 81, because it's been a little inconsistent. Has missed his share of cuts as well. So it's been sort of a hot and cold season for him, which is why you're getting really nice value for a top 10 prop this week at plus 600 with Kevin Yu.
Went to him at least once before, maybe twice in sleepers, and it feels a little bit like cheating because he does present so well on paper. And then you're looking, like you just mentioned, 81st in the FedEx Cup, easily the lowest of the 20. With 4 top 10s or more. We're in that season where there's 4 of the 6 courses in this stretch that are either new or unfamiliar, and that tends to benefit the ball strikers, and that's what he is most. That's his calling cards per se. So his form across the season has been obviously fine. But he's only 81st in the FedEx Cup, so he's not even in the playoffs field yet. It's an odd thing. But because the greens are relatively unfamiliar, Martin Ebert's, or is it Abear? I should apologize. I'm not positive. The architect who restored Hamilton replaced the old bent grass greens that were blended with Poa Annua with all bent grass greens right now for the tournament. So those are new to the 35 who had played here in 2019. You did not. So that evens out the field for him a little bit and then allows his strength to go to work. And that plays up and down the field. I did caution readers in the Golfbet Insider this week, Swanee, that although that's a predominant thought and narrative when it comes to the prognostication and preparing on how to invest, the greens are 20% larger at 6,000 square feet now. So that gives everybody a fair shot to contend without any favorited skill set in advance. Yet, you for 6-1 for a top 10 sleeper, that's a good fit.
Busy stretch of big-time golf over the next few weeks. Got a couple of Siggies sandwiched around the U.S. Open. I will see you again next Wednesday as we reconvene in advance of the Memorial Tournament at Muirfield Village. Good to see you, big fella.
Bring my appetite for one of those milkshakes. That sounds pretty good, pal. Talk to you then.